समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
For weeks now, as India has campaigned across the world for action against Pakistan for sponsoring groups like the Lashkar-e-Taiba, its efforts on the Pahalgam massacre have run into a brick wall made up of just a few English words. Show us the proof. This week, though, hard evidence has finally emerged from the bodies of 3 terrorists killed last week in Kashmir's Dachigam, firmly establishing ties between the perpetrators of the Pahalgam massacre, Pakistan, and the Lashkar. 2 of 3 terrorists alleged to have carried out the attack in Pahalgam, intelligence sources told ThePrint, carried copies of their digital Pakistan government-issued identification cards, enabling their precise identification against stored biometric information. Evidence independently obtained by ThePrint also reveals that the government of Pakistan has been aware of ongoing terrorist operations by the Lashkar and the Jaish-e-Muhammad in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Despite being aware of this, it has done nothing to shut those cross-border operations down. The evidence of involvement of the Pakistani nationals in Pahalgam, a senior Indian intelligence official told ThePrint, will now enable New Delhi to push the international community harder for action against jihadist leaders like Hafiz Mohammad Saeed and Masood Azhar Alvi. The Pahalgam investigation shows that Pakistan-based terrorist groups have not only been involved in these killings, the intelligence officer told me, but that the government has been lying when it tells the international community that they have been completely shut down. Following threats of sanctions by the Multinational Financial Action Task Force, Pakistan had jailed some senior jihadists alleged to have had links to the 6/11 terror attacks in Mumbai. The country also promised action to end operations by the Lashkar and Jaish, which it had banned much earlier. The NIA's evidence now shows that that promise has been flagrantly violated. And that isn't the only reason why this is important. Later on, I will talk you through the hundreds of similar cases where justice could never be done. Evidence now gathered by India centers around national identification cards issued by Pakistan's National Database Registration Authority or NADRA to 2 of the terrorists killed in the Dachigam forests. Cards that were described, perhaps a little mistakenly, by Union Home Minister Amit Shah as election identification cards in Parliament last week. The NADRA card system is kind of the equivalent of India's Aadhaar cards, linked with a database with biometric information. Each card entry also holds geographical information on the holder, their family, and of course links on to things like cell phone call records. The 2 NADRA cards show that one of the perpetrators was Habib Tahir from the village of Kuiya near Khaigala in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, a former college student who dropped out of his studies in Rawalakot. Long involved with the Jamaat-e-Islami political party, local WhatsApp messages obtained by ThePrint showed that his story was circulated among Jamaat cadre in Khaigala. Tahir, it turns out, joined the Jamaat-ud-Dawa, the parent organization of the Lashkar, after leaving the Jamaat-e-Islami. Now, family sources close to Tahir told ThePrint that the Lashkar chief in Rawalakot, Rizwan Anis, had called Tahir's brother, who works in Saudi Arabia, to tell him of the firefight in Dachigam, where troops of the 4 Para-Commando Regiment shot dead the Pahalgam perpetrators on the 28th of July. The following day, Rizwan visited the family in Konya and asked to conduct a memorial prayer service for the slain terrorist. However, The terrorists' maternal uncles, Asif Akram and Jannat Akram, demanded that Rizwan leave the village. The family told the print. Asif and Jannat said that the Lashkar was responsible for brainwashing their nephew and sending him to his death. A witness to that conversation told us. There was an argument then between Rizwan and his guards, as well as the maternal uncles, which ended in a scuffle. The second NADRA card, which was stored on a Huawei encrypted communication device used by the terrorists, identifies the second perpetrator as Bilal Afzal. The card seen by the print bears numbers suggesting that Afzal was a resident of the Lahore area, probably Changamanga, and his father's name is Muhammad Afzal. Afzal is believed to have operated in Kashmir for several years under possibly the codename Suleiman Shah, carrying out a succession of operations in last year's killings, including last year's killings of construction workers in Gagangir. The three men, according to two Indian intelligence officials, were part of several similar teams operating under the overall command of Sajid Saifullah Jat, a senior Lashkar operative who served in South Kashmir's Kulgam for several years from 2005 onwards. Sajid is now believed to live in the village of Changamanga, quite close to Lahore, with his ethnic Kashmiri wife who he married while he was serving in Kulgam. Now, this brings us to the question of Pakistan government complicity. Even though Pakistan's government has repeatedly claimed to have ended the operations of the Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Muhammad, a key document obtained independently by the print show both groups have actually continued to hold public functions in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. 3 days before the Lashkar terrorists were killed in Dachigam, Jaish commanders in the village of Barmang had asked local administrators to hold a Ghebana namaz, or funeral rites for someone without the presence of the dead body, for a terrorist from their group who'd been killed across the line of control in Kashmir. Led by Noman Shehzad, the Jaish-e-Muhammad's head in the Pakistan-occupied district of Bagh, the organization had requested District Magistrate Raja Muhammad Zulfikar Khan for permission to hold this Ghebana namaz in Barmang. A letter signed by Khan on 26 July had denied permission for the rally on the grounds that the Jaish would bring personnel displaying weapons which might disturb the peace. Following the district administration's orders, the Jaish did hold a small prayer meeting in Barmang, but without the display of weapons, residents told the print. Now, the district magistrate's letter, though, establishes that Pakistan is aware that proscribed terrorist groups continue to send operatives to engage in violence in Jammu and Kashmir since they're getting killed there. But it chooses not to crack down on them even after the Pahalgam massacre. Last year, the print had reported that the Lashkar's announcement of a Ghebana namaz for Lashkar terrorists Abdul Wahab, also known by the alias Abu Saifullah, and Sanam Jafar, who were killed near Sopor in North Kashmir in a firefight with Indian forces. The Lashkar had claimed Wahab was the fifth resident of the village of Barmang to be killed fighting with the group in Kashmir. The terrorist group called the slain men, I quote, great warriors who were martyred fighting the tyrannical Indian army. Video obtained by the print also showed armed Jaish cadre firing shots in the air at a Ghebana namaz for slain terrorist Hafiz Muhammad Arsalan in 2022. Lashkar leader Nazir Ahmad told a gathering in Muridke, the Lashkar headquarters, held soon before the Pahalgam massacre, that I quote, the ideological offspring of Hafiz Muhammad Saeed will continue his jihad. Earlier, Lashkar co-founder Amir Hamza, internationally sanctioned for his role in raising terrorism funds, delivered a sermon in Muridke urging jihad against the infidels. Local Lashkar leader Rizwan Hanif, speaking in Khaigala, close to Pakistan attacker Tahir's village, urged followers to prepare for, I quote, our jihad against the cow worshippers. These are all public statements recorded on social media and were widely available. Yet, Pakistan seems to have chosen to do absolutely nothing. So you might say two Pakistani terrorists killed. You never had any doubts they were Pakistani in the first place. Why is this such a big deal? And for that, I'll tell you another little story about an Operation Sindoor that never happened. Leela Devi was sitting by the side of the bullet-riddled body of her husband of one day, Khemraj, when the police finally arrived, clutching the only thing that remained of her marriage, Khemraj's cheap plastic chappals. The body of the second bridegroom killed that day, Leela's brother Sheshram, who'd been married to a lady called Dugdi Devi 3 days earlier, lay nearby. There were over 20 others dead, scattered around the road, all members of the wedding procession from the hamlet of Kadlal, who were accompanying another of Leela's brothers, Om Prakash, to his wedding at Korda. There was no one back in the summer of 1998 when that happened, seeking vengeance for Leela's Sindoor. The then Union Home Minister Lal Krishan Advani promised to punish the perpetrators of the wedding procession massacre at Chapnadi near Doda, among the first in a series of communal mass killings that has claimed the lives of more than 700 Hindus and Sikhs in Kashmir. The prosecution of the men alleged to be involved in that case, though, collapsed for reasons I'll discuss with you, basically because there was no evidence. This week, the hard evidence that has emerged from the Pahalgam case gives India its first chance to crack open the door of accountability for all of those 700 unpunished killings before the Pahalgam massacre. Lack of evidence, like the NADRA cards now found, has previously led to the sabotage of investigations of massacres of minorities in the Jammu region. Each case has been stonewalled. Investigation into the wedding procession massacre in Chapnadi illustrates the problems. Abid Hussain, known by the codename Abu Maz, the Pakistani Lashkar commander allegedly responsible for the massacre, and two other mass killings of Hindus that summer at Sarwan and Chana, was shot dead in 1999. There was no hard evidence, though, to prove that he was either Pakistani or linked to the Lashkar. It was just an encounter. He was dead. 5 Indian nationals from the Doda area were prosecuted for their role in enabling the massacre, but each one was acquitted for lack of evidence. Local resident Farooq Ahmad, arrested in 1998 but acquitted in 2006, left the village of Kashtigarh soon afterwards and is now believed to be living in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, police say. Abdul Qayyum Hajam, Muhammad Rafiq, and Ataullah Muhammad, all residents of the hamlet of Bhatta Disa, were also arrested in 1999, but again acquitted. Even the persons who had in fact disclosed the names of the accused did not support the case of the prosecution and specifically denied their involvement in the occurrence. The Jammu and Kashmir High Court had recorded at the time while acquitting the accused. They went to the extent, the court said, of saying that the accused facing the trial were not the assailants. Local resident Manzoor Ahmad Gujjar was similarly sentenced to life imprisonment for allegedly assisting yet another Lashkar-e-Taiba massacre, the killing of 22 children, women and men at the village of Prankot in April 1998. Many of the bodies were brutally mutilated. Later, though, the High Court acquitted Manzoor, saying that there was, I quote, no evidence to connect him with the alleged occurrence. Manzoor, however, continued to be held in preventive detention even after his acquittal on the grounds that he was a threat to the security of the state. The High Court, however, again stepped in and ordered his release in 2007. The most egregious failure to secure justice in one of these massacre cases was in the case of the slaughter of 36 Sikh residents of the village of Chatti Singhpura in Kashmir on the eve of a visit by then United States President Bill Clinton. Lashkar operative Muhammad Sohail Malik, who had confessed to the media to killing the 36 Sikh members, residents of Chatti Singhpura, was finally acquitted for lack of evidence and repatriated to Pakistan by the government in 2015 since there were no more cases against him. A police officer told me that all these cases had to be investigated with no access to suspects across the line of control, nor any assistance from Pakistani authorities. That's true. It made it impossible to question more important suspects. The fact was that we finally now, though, have hard evidence that will hopefully be able to pressure the international community to step up the heat on Pakistan. This might just be the door opening, not only for justice for those killed in Pahalgam, but the many hundreds of people who have waited almost 3 decades, almost giving up hope that they will ever see the killers of their loved ones prosecuted. I'm Praveen Swami, and I'm a contributing editor to ThePrint. Thank you for watching this special episode of Security Code.